working with our farmers and in partnership.
PG and Mr. Damien Brutti, members of the BET executive team, farmers, the senior staff from Ministry of Agriculture and Waterways, and ladies and gentlemen, Bulov Nakatiol. Apologies for a slight delay. That's a politician's life, you know. We need to be on the go every time, and there's issues and complaints and requests placed every now and then. So we have to respond, and that's how our government is. We respond immediately. General Manager, I want to take this opportunity to thank British American Tobacco for their contribution in their own way to the growth and development of the agriculture sector. As you know, agriculture for almost all countries, except for a few outliers, agriculture has continued to contribute and was the main drivers of growth in the early stage of development. Apart from these countries which has got a lot of natural resources other than agriculture, or those countries which has oil reserves, almost all the other countries, their growth and development are linked to the surplus created in the agriculture sector. The surplus created in the agriculture sector was transferred to the non-agriculture sector, and that contributed to the growth and development of the non-agriculture sector. And the surplus transfer was in numerous ways. So over time, people thought that agriculture sector is not growing or not doing well, or it's not that important because agriculture's share in the overall economy declined. But that's not the case. The non-agriculture sector grew at a rate faster than those with mathematics background would understand about the slope of the growth functions. So the growth rate, the slope of the growth function of the non-agriculture sector was higher than the slope or growth rate of the agriculture sector. So that is why the share of agriculture in the overall economy started to decline. Even if the growth rate was lower than the growth rate of the agriculture sector, still the share would decline because there are new sectors coming into the economy. So obviously the share will decline. But declining share doesn't mean that agriculture is not important. For a number of countries, agriculture remains a strategic sector. And it became evident over the last 2 years during the pandemic how agriculture sector was not at all affected directly by the pandemic, COVID. It is the only sector which was not affected by COVID-19 directly. Of course, indirectly, those members of the households who were working in the formal sector were affected through reduced income or through loss of employment, etc. But directly, the sector continued to grow, and the sector continued to function as it used to be. In fact, during this pandemic, we saw a lot of movement towards agriculture under the term of back to rural, back to village, back to island, back to agriculture. In 2020 agriculture census, we had 83,000 farmers in the agriculture sector. And now I would say it's about 90,000 farmers. Now, we always said that agriculture will continue to play a strategic role. And the Agriculture Ministry has three key strategic objectives. One is to ensure that every household in the country, we ensure that their food security is guaranteed. Food security is not about urban households producing all their food requirements. It's not about that. Some people say, how can you have food security? Because urban households staying in high-rise flats, how can they produce their food? It's not about that. Food security is about accessibility and affordability. So we want to ensure that every household is able to access food and is affordable. Now, to ensure accessibility and affordability, we need to have control over the basic requirements, food requirements. I'm okay with garlic, we can import, onions we can import. We can cook our food without these. But the basic food requirement, we must have it in our control. And I'm going to talk about that more in a second. The second one is we want to move towards more commercial agriculture, commercialization. And there's a misnomer in the country that smaller farms are not commercial. Of course not. They are commercial. The definition of a commercial farm is that one, they target the market, they grow for the market. Two, they create surplus. Three, part of the surplus is reinvested in the business. And that's how they'll grow. Now, when you talk about farm, in the short to medium term, they can grow. In the longer term, then they will need more space, more land, etc. So we've got a large number of smaller farms who are growing for the market. So if someone says that Fiji is loaded with subsistence agriculture, it's not correct. Unfortunately, some prominent economists said in Parliament that we have got majority of the farmers in the country are subsistence. That's not true. Now you go to Esavas, Kandavu. Kandavu, almost all the farmers are growing for the market. Ingona. Who says Kandavu is subsistence farmers? Who says in the interior we got subsistence farming? Absolutely not. There are semi-subsistence farmers, but there are a large number of smallholder commercial farms. A goat farmer raising all the goat, totally for the market. It's a commercial farm. The question is the size, and there is a problem with size in terms of reducing unique cost and all those. So those are some of the issues that we need to deal with if you want in the longer run to really fast track commercialization and promote to increase surplus creation. The third objective, which was really downplayed with regard to agriculture over the years, was export potential. And then because of that, because non-sugar agriculture was not really exporting much, they're saying that agriculture is not very important, sugar is very important because sugar is bringing in a lot of money. Well, that's done now. 2020, for the first time ever, so we redid our strategic plan in 2018 when I came over, when I took over Ministry of Agriculture. Export is now a strategic objective. In 2020, for the first time ever, we surpassed $100 million mark of non-sugar agricultural exports. And for the first time, we surpassed sugar exports. Sugar was 101 million, non-sugar was 106 million. 2021, we further increased non-sugar agricultural export to 121 million. One, Kava, 42 million. Number two, Dalo, 31 million. Number three, interestingly, new crop, turmeric, 21 million. Number four, ginger, 12 million, 2021 figure. Number five, horticultural crops. And number six, poultry products. We're totally 100% self-sufficient, and we are exporting poultry products to neighboring countries. So there you go. Now, we are now entering into the export market. We are entering into the export sector. And non-sugar agriculture is becoming a major export earner for Fiji. Now, supporting this is our brand image. And every farmer in this country, every corporate sector should ensure that we protect our brand image. We're going big time into organic farming. Our turmeric, totally 100% exported to US, is much sought after because it's branded as organic. All the turmeric that we have exported till now are widely harvested. And now we're getting to turmeric farming and we're telling farmers, no fertilizer, no chemical, no pesticide, no weedicide. And we don't want to maintain it that way. We've declared entire Rotuma as organic. We were in Koro a few days ago. I spoke to the farmers, 3 farming groups, 3 cooperatives there, and I said that we will not subsidize fertilizer. I'm saying this for everyone in the country, all farmers. We are not going to subsidize fertilizer. We're not going to subsidize pesticides or chemical. We're very conscious of our environment, and thank you, General Manager, for your contribution to ensure that we contribute to sustainable agriculture. We're very conscious, and we want Koro to be declared totally organic. progressively, one by one, we want to declare those areas, those regions, and those islands as possible organic. And then we can enter into a premium market. GM, when we are in a heavily competitive market and we are only producing a fraction of the overall production, then the only way to survive in that competitive market is if we differentiate our product. If we differentiate our product, look at the sugar industry. Look at the sugar industry, they're struggling. Continuously, every day they're crying for subsidies and grants, all kinds of grants. For God knows why are we giving them cane planting grant. A farmer in Bua raised there and said, Minister, you're asking us to plant dalo. So how much money we'll get if you plant one plant of dalo? Why should we give you your dalo, your business? You grow, you sell, you keep all the money. We don't share. No, Minister, I had cane farmers are getting it. So there you go. We need to clean up the ground level, have one price, and let that price signal determine, who will come in the market, who will not. Simple, basic economics. Yeah, you understand that. Basic economics. Price signals will decide and clear the market. No interference at the input prices or output price. So it's time now we clean up, and that's why we are protecting the agriculture sector so that we have farmers who have done their mathematics and who want to grow a particular crop based on the price signal from the market. So GM, I want to thank BET again for their contribution to sustainable agriculture, because my feeling is that for the first time ever, we're now getting the entire country to understand about the importance of environment. How important the environment is to our quality of life. And it is our moral responsibility to hand over these natural resources, the biodiversity of environment, in the same manner that was handed over to us, and if possible, build resilience and expand the stock of this environment and hand it over to the future generations. And on this regard, the Ministry of Environment wholeheartedly welcomes the decision of the Judge Gounder yesterday on the fine that was imposed on Freesol, the company that was developing or planning to develop a hotel in Malolo Island. There are two components of the fine. The first component, two components of the ruling and the fine. One was the $1 million fine that will go to the courts. The second component was the $1.4 million of bond deposit for rehabilitation work, refundable bond for rehabilitation work. The first component of $1 million clearly demonstrates how important our government places on our environment. No one can come willy-nilly and abuse our environment in the name of COVID-19. During the last 2 years, a lot of investors, I see our staff there, Nikat, who was part of the EI team, got a good staff, GM. Over the last 2 years, investors would come and say, hey, COVID-19, you don't want us to do investment and create jobs? Come on, quickly, get our EI exempted. Look, we will not allow anyone to use any excuse. Even though we are in a very quite difficult phase of history of this country and the history of the world in terms of growth scenario, but we will not let these excuses to push us to make shortcuts which could lead to irreversible damage to our environment. And the later generations will say, who was the Prime Minister at that time when this happened? Who was the Minister for Agriculture? Will not allow that to happen. So the level of fine imposed on the company sends a clear message to all investors who are interacting with the environment on a daily basis, like BET, hotels, those companies and industrial organizations operating in industrial zone discharging their waste in the nearby streams and waterways. Stop doing it. Get back. Let's start afresh. and potential investors who are thinking of coming in and saying the small country, the group of oligarchs will join them and we can manage it. And that's exactly what happened in Malolo. This group of people who kept on advising, don't worry, we'll deal with them. Let's continue. No, that won't happen. There's a law that we are required to administer. We want to facilitate investment. Who doesn't want investment? Which country doesn't want? Which investor doesn't want? But not at the expense of environment that we are. I mean, look at the tourism sector. Outside, the first thing they talk about, Fiji's pristine environment. We just don't want to squander away with that. The second component of the fine was the 1.4 million refundable bond, which again, the amount demonstrates the magnitude of work that needs to be done to restore the ecosystem, the natural environment to its original state. And that demonstrates that we will not hesitate to hold all investors responsible to ensure that they leave the environment in the same state. So, ladies and gentlemen, I applaud and I thank again the continuous management of BET for being very conscious about the environment and in their own way contributing to sustainable growth and development of Fiji. Ladies and gentlemen, globally, there is a fear of major inflation getting beyond our control. The FAO has released data of massive inflation on food sector in particular. And the only way to control food inflation is to push production. During the pandemic, there's massive increase in prices of vegetables. All of you know, because of curfew hours, because of lockdowns, there was spread of vegetable was difficult. There was production happening, and then also there was rainy season. But distribution was a problem due to lockdowns, borders. And consumers approached us. The minister, what are you doing? Price of four eggplant, 4 vegan was about $1 each, so $4, $5, $6. Bundle of bean was about $8, $9. Cabbage was sold at the bundle of cabbage sold it for about $6, $7. What will we eat? How can we afford it? So there was a major hue and cry, and they were saying, let's control the prices, regulate price. There's price control. But we did not do that because to deal with a temporary problem, we don't want to make a permanent policy change. Simple. Ask any policy maker, they'll tell you. Don't bring in a permanent policy to deal with a temporary issue. The solution to hike in price, the sustainable solution to hike in price, GM knows is into the business, is to push more output. And that's exactly what we did over the last 2 years. And that's how we manage prices. And that's what we want to do. And we have taken control of the agriculture sector, and we are in total control of it. Pretty much total control of it. There are a few external shocks just beyond our control, but we need to build resilience, and that's what we're doing. So that it's about ability to bounce back quickly. That's what resilience is. How resilience is defined. Anyone talking about resilience, you will not be able to stop that external shock in the short to medium term. It's a global phenomenon, whether it's a cyclone, climate change. But what you can do is to minimize the damage. Number two, you build your ability to bounce back quickly. That's what resilience is about. And that's what we have done to the agriculture sector, and that's what we are doing to agriculture sector. Just 4 weeks ago, we opened a fully automated nursery at our Cornevia agriculture facility. The protected and supported agriculture is there to extend the production season into those seasons which this hotel sector, tourism sector, and GM has mentioned, off-season. In our books, we don't want to hear this term off-season. Off-season is there because people give up and say this season you can't grow that much, this can't grow, and that's it, and that's where the problem arises. We need to bring in technology to deal with this off-season so that we continue to supply to our hotels and save that about $27 million worth of commodities that they are importing. We need to continue to supply to all the other sectors. We don't want to withdraw our exports and supply to the tourism sector. And we, in fact, want to continue to increase our exports. And the services of nursery, greenhouse, hydroponics is what we're getting into. Just this week, we gave out about 12 hydroponic setups that we will be setting up along this region where there's demand for quality produce and produce which can be supplied during the off-season. So we want to level the season so that every season there's enough produce. So ladies and gentlemen, the only way to deal with the impending food price hike is to get control over production. And that's exactly what we're doing, and we're ready for that. And I want to assure you as Minister of Agriculture, assure all Fijians, that we will not let food prices affect us in a way that will affect our food security. So ladies and gentlemen, on this note, I want to acknowledge the continuous past contributions of BET Fiji, which has cultivated and distributed more than 140,000 assorted vegetable and fruit seedlings to the Ministry of Agriculture, to our farmers by the Ministry of Agriculture from in 2021-2022 alone. But they have been supporting us from long back, since 2019. We appreciate that today we will be receiving seedlings for eggplant and tomato. Seedlings are important. Why nurseries are important? Because it guarantees pretty much 100% germination rate. So I really applaud the support that BET has given us to date with regard to supplying of vegetable seedlings, and we would want to continue with this relationship. And it is a strategic way that BET is utilizing its facility to deal with a very important objective of any corporate sector, or should be, which is the corporate social responsibility towards the host country's development objective. So I want to thank the past and the current management and executive team of British American Tobacco, and I want to wish them a very success in their own business ventures, and I want to assure you that you will continue to receive our support, GM. Thank you, Naka, and all the best.